the fact that the U.S. as a whole is so religious and then buys into this as a religious idea, that supporting Israel is a religious duty, it's a religious obligation. That is what makes it so hard. Okay? I mean, campaign financing is certainly a very big issue, but that gets to a much bigger problem in American politics. But there is this ideological support that comes from it. So when a lot of people say, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, the Americans will always support Israel, I think that's fundamentally true. You know, you can completely cut off AIPAC and all that funding, you'd still have very, very strong, you know, support for Israel.
Thank you.
What will the decline in production over time, and how much more time does the Middle East have?
A long time. Well, the Saudis have a long time. You know, the Iraqis have a long time that they can develop. I mean, the interesting thing about the Saudis is they don't say a lot, but what they say is pretty much always the truth. Right? They show a little leg and okay, that's really their leg. You know, a lot of people have worried. This was Matt Simmons wrote this book a few years ago. I'm not sure if he's born. He's from Utah, but he's kind of this big oil industry consultant guru guy. And he went and wrote this whole book about how the Saudis were lying and they couldn't produce this and how could they, you know, he found all these engineering papers that had been written and said, look at all these problems. But basically, he was completely wrong. I mean, the interesting thing here is got a couple family connections and these issues have come up. I've been able to basically see the internal Aramco documents on how they're looking at these issues. And they've caught all these issues that people talk about. But when you had the International Energy Agencies for this global analytical agency, well, for the OECD, putting out reports saying, you know, 2020, 2030, we need to see 30 million barrels a day of production from the Saudis. And they produce, right now, they're producing about 10. The Saudis have been very open in saying, we cannot do 30. It's ridiculous. Don't even ask for it. What do they say? We need 12.5, maybe 15. That's the max we get. So they're honest in what they can do. And that's the cushion that's left. So where are you going to get sufficient supply? Well, you do get some things like this. We've had an offshore production revolution in West Africa and Brazil. In Norway, we're finding some more after years of decline. And then you got the fracking in the U.S. and the unconventional oils there. So you're finding some supply. Ultimately, if you can't get enough out of those things, you know, 10, 20 years down the road, you have to destroy demand. And that's what we've seen since the recession. We destroyed demand in many locations. Yes, the Chinese continue to grow their demand, but European demand is in decline. U.S. demand is in severe decline. Between the economics, between the recession, feeding more ethanol in, and increasing mileage standards. Put all this together and find demand. And those are the things you have to sort of do for a while. And you'll slowly work your way into a new energy future. Now, at some point, there may be a technology that simply tilts things, and that's why you try to run multiple technologies. Something hopefully sticks, or multiple issues stick. But oil and hydrocarbons over time have to decline. That's the parts of it. I actually saw some great charts once showing whale oil prices in the late 1800s. So that it's interesting. I think it shows you exactly what happens when a commodity dies and peaks out. Right? Prices spike and they just kind of stay high until everything went away.
I was going to ask what is the U.S. administration or Obama administration doing about alternative energy? Because this thing boils down to we consume so much in this country. And what is the alternative? What are we doing in terms of scientists, manufacturing something alternative to oil? That's one. I'm going to go to Libya. Libya, after Gaddafi was killed, what we're seeing is a fractured Libya. Benghazi is trying to declare autonomous from what they have as a national traditional leadership in Tripoli. And much of the arms supply in Libya has been shifted into almost West African. I'm talking about former Gaddafi remnants who actually left the country with their money, with their cash, gold, and arms actually moving into
Mali. What happened? Yeah.
Mali. It's happening right now. Mali government has been overthrown by those thrown by Gaddafi when he was in power. That's what is happening in Niger. That flows into what you call northern Nigeria. There's a lot of bombing going on there, which media doesn't actually cover. It happens every daily right now. So what is US doing in all these things? How are they responding? You see, it has a chain reaction, basically.
Yeah. As far as the alternative energy, I mean, there's certain Department of Energy programs. They try to fund those, fund research, things along those lines. subsidize certain technologies, that's what the case. You get state level subsidies for things like solar energy, so New Jersey and California are actually the ones who do the biggest state level subsidies for solar. They try to push some of these new technologies and give support. I wouldn't say it's decisive in any way. If anything, actually, it's the military who winds up doing a lot of decisive technology research on all these things. I always contrast that with Japan. I mean, in Japan, they put a huge amount of their money into research. I don't think the U.S., the U.S. isn't far behind, but Japan puts it all into helping keep old people alive, and the U.S. puts it all into helping kill people around the world. So either way, the technology is developed, right? So the military certainly does push on that, but at the end of the day, it's the prices. The prices are causing people to seek alternatives. They're causing more research to occur in energy companies generally. Private equity certainly looks around for opportunities, and that's obviously a place where you can take more risk and make a few different bets. So I'd say prices. As far as Libya, what we're doing there, I mean, we've had these growing sort of counter-terrorist training operations throughout sort of the, I forget what you call this, called Sahel, the region between North Africa and West Africa.
Sahel.
Yeah. Sorry, my geography isn't as good as it should be there. I mean, that continues. You've got these little kind of groups running around there, but I think what we have is we have a new dynamic here, and that's why I think when we got involved in Libya, there certainly were policy voices saying, we don't really know what's going on here. This is pretty dangerous, and we could have repercussions like this. I guess I don't know enough about the inner workings right now to know what's going on, but I have a feeling there's just a lot that's out of control right now beyond Washington's control. So I imagine they're just piecemeal making up policies. I haven't seen any strong policy issues. Actually, let me go here since you asked me.
A lot of people, when they argue for wanting to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, you hear them talk about how unstable Iran is and arguments like that. How credible or uncredible are those kind of arguments? Or do you see that in the future, or?
We made peace with Pakistan having a bomb. You will not find a more unstable state than Pakistan. The only piece of the state that functions in Pakistan is the military. So, the Iranian system, I mean, the more you dig into the Iranian system, the more complex you realize how it is, and it doesn't lend itself to the simple statements like that. Certainly, I think that the overall system is pretty strong. I mean, sort of with the depth of the reform movements, and then the Green Movement coming, which certainly we saw the numbers, but it couldn't topple the system. Again, you have a very, very strong plurality population that is strongly behind the system. You have a very large sort of rural population as well who tend to support the system as a whole. Very conservative rural hinterlands, as well as strong sort of urban segments that support it as well. So I think the greatest threat to the stability of Iran right now is the economic sanctions that are based on right now. Again, you're creating instability where it didn't necessarily exist before. I mean, the Iranian system in many ways has just been evolutionary. I mean, you had a disaster post-revolution in the early 80s, for sure. You had slow working positive evolution in the 90s, and then you had stepping back, right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back over the past decade. As far as the system being very, very unstable, I don't think that has been the case. This again goes back to the notion in U.S. politics, you can't say enough bad about Iran, right? Ever since the embassy takeover in 79, the perception of Iran has just turned into these are a bunch of crazy people. You had this debate, I think it was in the Israeli press, talking about, are the Iranians rational actors? And you had, I think it was Erdogan come out saying, yes, they're rational actors in their certain way. And it's just essentially, this debate happens in Washington too. It's just basically racist. Are these people Martians or are they human, right? There's no sense, a willingness at the surface to admit everybody has their rational interests. Everybody does, right? Especially when you're talking at the level of states. It's just a question of where are they really and how do they line up, and then how do our rational interests interface with theirs? Does this need to come to conflict, or is this something we both just need to find a way to tie things in and look at the picture?
Kind of in support of what you were saying, and I was at a conference today where Doris Grant was one of the guest speakers, and somebody asked the question where the fact that we cut Iran off so much and have so little doing with their government, is that actually hurt us in that we don't know if they're actually rational actors, like we don't know what's going on in their lives. And his response was, no, he's like, they're very rational actors, he's like, they're smart people, they know what they're doing. And another thing that he mentioned was on the Israeli conflict with Iran, is that within their Israeli government, it's very divided as to how to respond and how aggressive to be, like something just back off, something more aggressive. And I'm just curious, your take on that, like who seems to kind of have the upper hand as far as more aggressive to answer the step back?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is definitely a strong divide. It's probably been about 6 months since I really talked to some people in the Israeli system well. But yeah, the divide's there. Netanyahu's clearly at the forefront. They have slowly been moving more hawkish people into key positions. I don't know that you have a solid majority in the cabinet. Just it's been a while since I looked at it in detail. But yeah, there's far more debates among the Israelis than there is in Washington. Which kind of goes in line with the past year and a half perceptions. I think the Israelis, not that I'm a big fan of defending the Israelis, but from their own perspective, they were smart to stay pretty quiet. And the fact that they've been so noisy over this has, I think, it's hurt the strategic position and the ability for Washington to try to engage or pressure Iran on their behalf. And Netanyahu has been going very strong in using the Nazi comparison. When he showed up, AIPAC or the White House, he hands Obama one of these documents from 1944, the request to bomb the death camps in Germany. And by the way, you didn't act then, so we're going to act now. And this has created a backlash even in the Israeli press, saying you need to back off with the Nazi comparison. You're cheapening the memory of these people, and you're making the situation harder to deal with strategically. So yeah, I mean, there is a recognition at those policy levels that you do need, well, at least there's a strong debate over the need to have a more rational approach. But there is, in Israel, just as much as in Washington, there is this real difficulty to engage with people who've been, operating on their own self-interests. The example I was given this, must have been 15 years ago when the Israelis were still in South Lebanon, and 60 Minutes was interviewing some senior military commander among the Israelis in South Lebanon. And they talked about MOV011. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He was always labeled as the arch terrorist, Hezbollah's main man. And they're asking this Israeli guy, yeah, we hear he wants to kill you. Why do you think that is? And this Israeli commander goes through MOV011's whole story, having been kicked out of the Nakba in 1948, suffered in a refugee camp his whole life, watched relatives killed by the Israelis, all this stuff. And then the interviewer at the end says, so why do you think he wants to kill you? I don't know, he's just crazy. This inability to see the most obvious facts because you have created such a strong racist stereotype for people. And that's where it becomes difficult. But again, that is the interesting thing, is that you still have people in Israeli policy circles who have various levels engaged with Iran. I mean, they work very closely with the Shah's government, and you had Iran-Contra, where they were directly selling weapons, continuing to receive oil from the Iranians, well past the revolution. So there is recognition among some people that, again, these are rational actors and not Martians. Okay, yeah. Was there anybody else who had any questions?
You mentioned about a nuclear bomb, an Iranian nuclear bomb possibly bringing more balance to the Middle East. I'm quite curious to know why Iran, and are the surrounding countries in favor of Iran developing a nuclear bomb if a nuclear bomb is going to bring balance? And what has made Iran different? Has it been cash resources? What particular resources make Iran like the country to build a nuclear weapon instead of like maybe the Saudis or other countries in the area?
Yeah. So I mean, you hear this talk a lot that we can't let the Iranians get a bomb, because that'll set off a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, which of course ignores the fact that the Israelis got the bomb and set up the nuclear arms race, and then Pakistan as well to Iran's east. Why is it Iran? Iran had a program from the 70s under the Shah The US was helping them develop their program. I think it was still in the Adams Peace program, but they were very much helping them build the expertise and know-how. So there was a background there. They continued to develop it. They had all the, trained engineers and scientists who would work on this, and it was seen very much as a point of pride. Officially, the Iranian government position is still, we're not trying to develop a bomb, this is for peaceful purposes, and there is clearly an element of that. Whether or not they're trying to get a bomb is, that's the big $6 billion question. My belief would be that they're certainly trying to get up to a capability, at least. Why hasn't anybody else? Again, they haven't had the same history and background of having a program. They've lacked the technical expertise. They've had an umbrella from Washington anyways. Now what you're seeing is, again, this changing strategic picture. Well, I should say one thing. The Gulf monarchies are very strongly opposed to, obviously, Iran getting a bomb. Their populaces are not nearly as worried about it as the ruling elites are. Right? It's about a power dynamic more than anything. But they haven't developed one, but now they're saying, hey, if the Iranians get a bomb, we're going to start crash programs. And so the UAE's getting ready to buy a bunch of nuclear reactors. You have all sorts of people starting to say we're going to get in the game now. But part of that, too, is the fact that Washington is entrenched as it is in the region. You look at the map of U.S. military bases still, and it's pretty obvious how deeply involved we are. Pulling back from Iraq, pulling back from Afghanistan has said something. And the growing relationships with China in the Gulf has said something, too. So there's a greater willingness to operate on independent policies. Oil policies reflected that. The trade policy, foreign policy. Abdullah, King Abdullah in Saudi Arabia, going back a decade or more, was already shifting Saudi foreign policy to be relatively more independent than it was prior to the first Gulf War. So a greater willingness to be independent. It's trying to move in that way. Competition with the Iranians. And again, this says something. They were never worried when the Israelis had the bomb in the Israeli The Iranians do, they're worried about it, and then they play up the sectarian angle again, right? The Shia and all these things, and Shia Crescent, and losing all this stuff. Which Washington plays along with Washington knows. So just keep the issue. Does that create a power balance? Well, if you want to get a bomb, of course, there's more balance power in the region. Right? The sensible thing would be to say, again, let's have a debate about the whole region, the entire security setup for the region, and let's just get rid of the bombs. But when you're not willing to address one side of that, you wind up having another side trying to balance it out.
On behalf of all of us, thank you so much. For longer, but hopefully get a chance to interact with each other, and please help yourself to refreshments. And again, thanks for coming. We look forward to a future conversation and getting to know you a little better. Thanks again.
What's that?